Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode. Our guest today is Lesley Jeavons, co-founder of Jeavons Toffee. Welcome, Lesley.
Hello.
Awesome. So let me tell you a little bit about them. They have vegan toffees, caramels, and chocolates. They're a small vegan family business based out of what's the name again? Brighton.
Brighton.
Yeah, got that right. All right. Husband and wife team. And their mission is to provide toffee-based treats that are at least as good as the dairy-based sweets that they used to love. That's awesome, because me and her were just talking about that. And I mean, go back, she's been vegan 30 years now, and let alone try to find any kind of good treats back then. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I do remember a company that used to do toffees in the UK, but I cannot find any information about them. So maybe it was hard work and they stopped.
Right. Awesome. So by 2019, they outgrew their tiny home kitchen and moved into their own premises. Obviously, that's a big shift. So, I mean, you guys just got so much going on. You moved into an upscale production, and now you make enough toffee and chocolate to sell to, I would guess, many people, more masses, obviously.
Yeah, we're still very small fry, but we started because I've been vegan 28 years. I think New Year's Day, long before Veganuary, New Year's Day 94, been vegetarian for about a year and a half, and thought not quite feeling comfortable about what I'm doing, so very quickly became vegan, and so been vegan all that time. And we're the kind of people that even though there was things that we liked and that we missed, I wouldn't have eaten them because I knew that I didn't want to be contributing to the cruelty. So it was things that we liked. All the mainstream confectionery was just no, not having it anymore.
Right.
And we had our son in 2000, and he's a life vegan, obviously, because we've brought him up vegan, and he's thankfully happy to remain vegan and has never wavered, which is fabulous. But we would often talk about, now obviously if you're the other side of the Atlantic, you might not have heard of the kind of brands that we know of, but over here there's a Christmas tin of sweets called Quality Street. There was little different flavors of toffees called Toffos, and my husband and I would quite often talk about all the sweets that we grew up loving, and we did miss that kind of thing.
Right.
And when I used to dance around as a teenager pretending to be Madonna, my husband, when he was a teenager, he used to make sweets as a hobby. His mum had some old cookbooks, and he would just be bored and think, I'm just going to go and make some toffees or whatever. So a few years back, he thought, let's see if I can have a go at veganizing these. So he took pictures from his mum's old recipe books, amended the recipes and made them. And we were blown away by how good they were. It's like, oh my God, there is nothing like this. This is so good. And then we had some vegan animal rights friends that we went out to see, and we shared with them, and their eyes rolling into the back of their head and things like, oh my God, that tastes just like XYZ, things that they've made. And they were saying that if they didn't know us, didn't know we were vegan, they wouldn't have trusted us or believed us that it wasn't a dairy toffee. So there was nobody else doing such a thing. So we just thought, well, we have to do this. We can't just have this amazing recipe and it go with us. So we had to do it. And it's big struggle moving from home production to finding a factory, especially when we're not food industry people. We've got absolutely no background in that. And Corin was a photographer. I'm still part-time fitness instructor. So setting up a confectionery business was just not something that we ever thought, let's look at doing that. We stumbled into it and had to do it. And thankfully, other people are as keen on our stuff as we are, which is great.
Right. That's amazing. So you guys had the idea, and then you've seen that, and then you're obviously making out of your probably just kitchen, right, at the start,
you
know, at home type of thing. And then how did you kind of start selling it then? Was it like going to like farmers markets or flea markets? Or I mean, I don't, do you guys have those there?
Yeah, we do have that. And we started by, did we have our show? I think the first thing we did, we had a veg fest. Did you know of Veg Fest over there? Veg Fest is a bunch of UK festivals that take place in different cities.
Got it.
So we were due to have a Veg Fest in Brighton in beginning of 2016. So it was, okay, let's launch there. So we just made loads of stock, which took absolutely ages, small batch, sort of cooking like an oven tray's worth would be a tray of toffee, which would make, I don't know, 30 products or something. So just
Right.
making absolutely enough stock to be worthwhile having a stall. So we launched at the Veg Fest, which was really good because then we could give out tasters, because people are sometimes quite reluctant to pay for something that they don't know what it's going to be like. And if you've not got any idea what it's like, you might be not keen to part with your money. But we gave tasters and people loved it. So we launched at the Veg Fest, and then afterwards we set up our own online shop. So when we were at home, it was just through our own online shop. And that's still, now that we're in the factory, we've got some outlets, other online vegan shops and independent health food shops, but it's pretty much almost 50-50 between our own customers to our own web shop and a few independent stockists and online retailers. So we're still very small fry, which is kind of frustrating when you know that you're the best and you see other things out there. You just think we need to compete with all these
Right.
other companies.
So that's a good question to lead us into something. So you guys have obviously a good product, super good product. So why do you feel that you're in right here and you're maybe having some difficulty going to this next kind of level, I guess? Or
Yeah, I think because our products are, although we've got a few items of machinery that help, they help us produce more, but a lot of it is still very much handmade, hand cut, run through the chocolate by hand. There is nothing automated, which means that a lot of our time is spent actually doing it. So there's less time to do the other side of it. And also it's because we've not got any experience in the food business, and because we're in the south of England, traditionally in the UK, up north, Blackpool, up the sort of northeast is where a lot of confectionery places are based, probably because it's cheaper than being in the south. But so there's not really a lot of information around us to help us. So like we've got family that have ever worked in a sweet factory or anything, so it's a real learning curve. And also we're not just doing candy, we're not just doing chocolate, we're doing both of them together, which is an even sort of smaller niche. So it's kind of so busy actually doing it that we only have a little bit of time to work on growing the business as well. And especially when you don't know who the contacts are to go to, it's you don't know which doors to knock on as well. But we've been, because it's the hot weather at the moment, I don't know what it's like for you, but it's 30 odd degrees out here at the moment.
Right.
So when we have days like that, we just can't produce because it's too hot and it affects the recipe. We can spend some time working on the business. So I've been sort of connecting with people on LinkedIn and trying to put feelers out to try and widen our network, really.
Right. So yeah, that's interesting because I mean, it's just not you. I find that a lot of the small businesses and that's their biggest challenge, because I mean, I always say we all have different hats, right? And you have the CEO hat, you have the chocolate making hat, you have the marketing hat one day, you have the business development hat one day, operations hat one day, and it's trying to figure out that balance of, okay, I got my chocolate making hat on or my toffee making hat on now, but now I need to take 4 hours and put my CEO hat on, right? And just do this properly. And I find that's the biggest struggle I find with majority of small businesses.
Yeah, when you're dipping into that and then you've not been doing it for a while, it's like anything, that it's sort of harder to pick it up again because you're thinking, where was I up to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also a learning skill too. Like did you guys have the Curves for Women franchises there? Do you remember Curves for Women?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was a women's chain that went all over the world, a big fitness chain that went to like $4 billion in 10 years. And they were in every country. And I think they were big in UK too, but I brought those to Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned the most, it was just getting into such a big franchise, getting to know the owner very close, because I was in at the very start. So I really grew with the brand and seen a brand grow. But I really understood like, oh, I have to become, I was always pretty good at marketing and stuff, but I'm like, oh, I got to become good at this operation side of the business. Right. And, and I tell people it's a whole nother skill set, right? It's another skill set that you got to keep developing and working on and stuff like that. And I really try and push small businesses that way to understand, like, if you want to grow, you're going to have to understand that more. And it's not like you have to learn it all the night, but if you can keep learning it more and more and more, you get better at that. And now your business
Yeah.
grows.
Yeah, because we've both got our different hats. My husband is very good at being creative, coming up with recipes. He's good at, if something doesn't work, he will research to tweak something to make it work. I'm
Right.
good at the sort of mundane admin stuff of keeping on top of everything. But we're like a three-wheeled bike that we're sort of lacking the third wheel that's got that expertise. And another frustrating thing is, since being busier on LinkedIn, you tend to get people that are coming to you, not the help we need, but things like marketing and branding and apps and different things. And that's all lovely, and that's maybe all further down the line. What we really need is the practical people that actually work in food production, that know about processes, that know about outsourcing or getting your products into supermarkets or health food chains or anything like that. And it's interesting that sometimes you could feel a little bit overwhelmed, and you feel that you're a little bit inadequate because the skills that you've got aren't all the skills you need. But then you actually forget that, my God, we've got these excellent skills that have got us this far already. And it's just needing to find, there's going to be one day the magic door is going to open. We're going to find the exact kind of person that's help we need, because it's not even necessarily financial. It's know-how.
Yeah.
The same thing.
That makes sense. And I think too that the better that you set up, like a lot of times it's the things you can't see behind the businesses. So the better that you're structuring the operations, the better that you might be structuring culture, purpose, telling the story, all that stuff that you might not even think is that important right now. And small businesses sometimes don't look at that, but that's what gets a small business to the next level. And what I'm saying with that type of stuff and learning how to operate that better, what happens is then it gives you leverage too on attracting the right people or the right person. So when they come in, they see the operations. Oh, these people are good at like driving the whole business. Okay, I feel trust working with these people. So, you might leverage, and that person, you might say, okay, like you've got good distribution. You can get us into this. Maybe I give you 5 points on the back end in equity and do some kind of structure that way, right? But you got to make sure that I think you have things set up really strong that way, just as an operational foundation. And then when you bring that person in, you guys actually have more leverage in the deal, whether they're selling, whether you give up a couple points, whatever it is. The more you can do that, then you keep more leverage. But there's definitely ways to do it for you guys 100% that can get that right person in. But it's making sure that you also have that foundation strong, because sometimes people bring people in and the foundation is not set up properly, or it's not strong enough, so that they kind of like either lose money on that person, or that person doesn't execute properly, or right? Like so many times somebody says to me, well, this person didn't work out for me, Shane. And I said, okay, well, send me the processes and the detailed plan that you showed them they were supposed to do. Very few businesses can send it to me.
Right. Okay.
So then I said, okay, well, how the heck was this? The person didn't have a chance to work out with you.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
even more just not knowing who the right person would be, because in any industry, it's there's abbreviations of the language of that industry, and just reading things and seeing on people's LinkedIn profiles letters and having to Google what does that actually mean? What is their role? Like even what is it? FMCG. I had to look that up, and it's just fast moving consumer goods. And like, okay, I know what that is now. But it's when you're writing something, when I remember when I was at university, you write something, and before you put something as the initials, the first time you use it, you spell it out what it is. Whereas you didn't have Google back then. But so it's that kind of thing, just trying to find the right job for what we need. And we've sometimes felt, why is no one come knocking at our door? Because if you search for vegan toffee, you very quickly come across us, because we're the only people, we've got the only vegan toffee factory in the world. And I would have thought by now that supermarkets would have been knocking at our door, because you go in there and you see the new products, and it's another bar of chocolate that might have little bits of honeycomb sprinkled through or whatever, but there's nothing that's actually very different or as different as ours, and we kind of expected by now we'd be beating them away and they'd be fighting over us and things, and it's not happened, but it's maybe because they've not heard of us. But quite nice to be on LinkedIn again, connecting to people that are major players in supermarkets and then following back, so thinking, well, at least now people might be seeing who we are. And again, that's only something we've been doing recently because we've been so busy just doing the job. We only had our factory from beginning of 19, so that was a few months getting it set up, learning how to do our production on a larger scale. A few hiccups here and there because recipes thankfully worked pretty much the same, small batch as large batch, but just learning the processes for doing it on a larger scale. Then we had our first Christmas, and then all of a sudden there was COVID. So really we kind of a little bit autopiloted through COVID. Just people were at home, they were on pretty much full pay, so they had money to spend on not going out, money to spend on being in. So we were just really busy working our two selves, just keeping up production to be dealing with orders. So we didn't really think of growing the business at that point. It was just dealing with how it was coming in. Whereas now it's, okay, COVID was a while ago now, we need to be looking at doing something different and moving forward to just going into work and producing every day. And so we do get some local government business advice, and things are said like, get other people in to do the work while you work on the business. But that's when funds are tight. The last thing you want to do is be responsible for some salaries when you're sometimes struggling to draw enough from the business yourself. So it's a little bit sleepless nights some of the time of just too much to do and not enough time to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that advice to me is not good advice. And so it really comes down to understanding where to make that decision. Like, where do you need to put your time, and where's the most important area that you need to, that one area that you really need to scale. Like, a lot of times things sync together too. People don't understand. So like, if you're trying to get distribution in bigger shop, you're going to have to hustle that business. And no matter how good you are, everyone has to hustle it to get into that. But they're also still looking at things like, how good are you telling your brand story? How good are you telling it through social media? How good? So nowadays they are looking at all that, right? When they're choosing to work with a brand, are you building community? Are you, and a lot of times if you look at small businesses and I ask them, like, can I see, your system? Because me coming from Curves, it was all about systems and processes, right? That's how we scaled. So I ask a lot of times, can I look at your systems or processes? But they don't have any of that mapped out. So that's where they get stuck. If they don't have that mapped out, there's really no direction of how they're going to get there and how they're going to go, right? So that's a critical thing. And yeah, it is time consuming, but it's probably the most critical thing a person can do in the business, to be honest, to help you get to that next level. If we wouldn't have done that, we'd be all over the map at all times, right? So yeah, I mean, you guys got a great product and great story and stuff behind you and stuff, and I think there's a lot of big potential for you guys. It sounds like you're just having a little bit of being stuck, a little bit of figuring out what direction maybe to go and to get to there right now, I think.
Yeah, there was one leap, and then it's time for the next leap, which is why we're on to looking at wholesale, because again, handmade, it's fairly expensive, but then that's economy of scale. Of course it is, we're not churning it out, so it's sort of having to work on what the margins would be that a wholesaler would expect that we can still be making money from to be doing it, because quite often people end up, they do get into a supermarket and the margins are that tight that they're working just as hard, or a lot harder for not really much more money. So it's that kind of thing that we have to, we've set up some margins that we think we're happy with. So we've submitted ourselves to a site called Range Me. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Okay. No, I haven't.
So because of COVID, when actual physical events weren't taking place, but also because if there would be trade shows once a year, how much change goes on within a year period. So there's now a few different online platforms, and I've joined one called Range Me, which was set up by, I think, a lady in Australia, and she was in her local pharmacist, and I think she had some skin condition, and her local pharmacist said, oh, I make this ointment that will help for that. And this woman thought, well, that's no good to anybody that's not in this community. This needs to be somewhere. So it was a platform that you submit your products, and buyers from all around the world can see them.
Okay.
So that's where, at the moment, we've only just joined that. So there's what it's because I joined it through one supermarket, clicking through their website, it's exclusive to them for
Right.
30 days. But then after that, we're visible. And so I'm hoping that other people will then see. But that's great. That way that buyers can type in keywords, look for vegan or plant-based confectionery, and hopefully they would then see us when they've not seen us before. So it's quite a, I think it was only launched in the UK last
Right.
October, so quite new. But this was a major supermarket that I clicked to it through their site, so it's obviously being used.
Right, that's
So
good. The more you get out there, that's good. I think you guys would do really well on, I think I would hit TikTok if I were you guys. And the reason is I would do like,
yeah,
obviously you're not going to go on there and dance, right? It's not, it's the fastest scaled platform right now. I mean, you could if you wanted to, maybe it might be fun in the factory, but you guys got a product where you can kind of show behind the scenes and you can show a lot of stuff and being made and being handcrafted. And I
yeah,
mean, you do, like I look at your business as such a great content game to scale. Like it's just like, I'm like, whoa, like there's actually physical stuff, right? That you can
yeah,
really do great stuff with. So, and I like the fact you guys are in the higher end market. I think that, you're because, it costs a little more because you guys are doing it more hand to hand, combat and stuff. I mean, it's really, you never make it when you're in the middle, right? And so I like that market. I mean, I think for you guys, it's just, I think it's just getting it, a few of the vegan influencers, a few of the vegan celebrities that are like that would appeal your product to that market. And like
right,
the guys and girls that I know that, buy $2,000, $3,000 shoes, there's a big market out there that will
yeah.
buy that stuff. So
Yeah, well, the thing is that's because we're again busy producing, we're doing it, and then we're both hands on, and then it's, oh, one of us better go and grab the camera to film a little bit to put on social media. So it's really hard as well when your work is physically demanding of your time, that you then have to be thinking we do have to do the social media as well. I mean, it's lovely to look at chocolate flowing and things going through it and toffee pouring out, and we do it sometimes, but often we're too busy to do it a lot. But yeah, we do know we have to do
the
more
problem,
content.
the problem though is you're going to do it like a lot of people do it. You don't have a strategy behind it, so it's just doing it. Really, when you sit down, it should be mapped out of why you're doing it.
Yeah,
What you're trying to get to, how many times you're going to do it. Are you trying to build top of the funnel brand? Are you trying to build direct to consumer? Are you trying to build the wholesale market? Like what's the reason and where we're
yeah,
going? So
yeah,
there should definitely be a strategy around it for you, and I mean, I'm gonna watch my P's and Q's here because a lot of friends that own big agencies, so I'm not gonna say too much, but a lot of times you don't have to pay big money for certain things. You just got to get some of the content strategy right, and then
right,
you can hire somebody that can get it all produced and stuff for you for pennies on the dollar, like literally. So there's ways to do it where small businesses can maximize dollars, right? We have a lot of freelancers that do stuff for us. It's just I know how to set up the strategy properly, and so they can execute for a lot less money for us.
right.
So I think that's the key for you guys. So I mean, I love your guys' business. I really want you guys to succeed. I think there's so much potential, with what your guys are doing, and I think it's a really niche market. I think like where you're kind of going on. I just even love the story, like how you guys take the time and do all that. Like it's just not another company, it's just not another, hey, let's just produce chocolate and throw it out there and toffee and
Yeah,
just get it out there. Who cares? Who cares
yeah.
about, what it,
And it's come from a place of there is nothing like this. We have to do it. Is what we were doing.
yeah, yeah,
You saying about the price point though, because we've got absolutely no intention of being high end. We want to be the kind of product that if you were, I don't know, going on a train journey or something, and you got with the local news agent, you call them news agents,
yeah.
so nip into somewhere that you're buying a bar of chocolate and a magazine for your trip, and that kind of sort of newsstand position of cheap everyday confectionery is what we're aiming for, and that's kind of like how we've done our branding again, like the chocolate bars that we grew up with. So price is only a factor to do with, because there isn't any automation in the processes that we do. So it has to be that price to pay for the factory, to pay for the insurance, to pay for the management service fee, all that kind of stuff. But the intention is to maybe outsource some of it, because now that we know our recipes, if we could get an external producer to make it that can churn it out more, the price could come way down. And because that's the intention, that really we don't, possibly would be a little bit more expensive as vegan, but really we would want it to be, trying to think of brands that you would maybe know of, but you just want to be on the shelf alongside a Lion Bar and our chocolate, and it'd be pretty much the same price, because quite often as well, we've got our customers that buy our products, and it's quite nice that a lot of them, they're the vegan in the relationship and their other half isn't vegan, and so they've got their stash in the cupboard, and then they're finding the husband is always taking it because they prefer ours to their own, which is such a compliment that they'd rather have the vegan thing rather than it being, oh, that's your weird vegan stuff, I'm not going to touch that. It's they prefer our vegan versions of the other product. So if ours tastes as good, the only thing that would maybe stop someone buying it is that, well, it's twice as expensive. So if we can make it as cheap as mainstream confectionery, then there's no reason not to buy ours instead.
Yeah, I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And I think you're in that line where you're if you can get the cost down that way, makes sense. But you could always do both too. Like, I mean, you could go super high end too. You could have one product that's more for mainstream, and then one product where it's handcrafted, where you're sending to, the guys that I know and girls that I know that are CEOs that run big companies and stuff, and they get this and they're paying $300 for a box that's handcrafted and whatever. And you guys could do that. Like, it's a whole nother market. I mean, I could see that market really working.
Yeah, because we've got the potential that we've got of our toffee and caramel recipes is, the recipes vary slightly between each product, but pretty much we've got a toffee base that the possibilities are endless. We can put sort of puffed rice, well, we do put puffed rice in it, we put peanuts in it, we put hazelnuts in it, we have it. Dime bars, do you have dime bars?
No.
It's a very thin, hard-boiled toffee with almonds in it that snaps. So we've sort of got a potential of something that's absolutely solid to something that's liquid, soft caramel. So the sort of possibilities are endless as to what we can do. Everything that we do, we use in the one vegan alternative to milk chocolate. So although it's a vegan chocolate, it's a milk chocolate, and so it's not a darker taste. But if we had additional chocolate tanks, we could have vegan white chocolate, we could have darker chocolate, and then you've got, again, because I don't know about there, but over here a darker chocolate is the more sophisticated end of the market.
Yeah, it is here.
So that's where we just, it's all in the one chocolate, because we've got one chocolate machine, and if we were to put other chocolate into it, we've got to empty it out, and there's a whole load of chocolate in the middle that's a mix of both as it sort of pops through the sausage machine. So there's potential equipment and with different equipments and processes that we just the recipes that we could come up with from our basic toffee caramel recipe it would just be endless, really.
Right. Well, that's
we've already got about 14 products. We doing them all ourselves. So really, with the last thing we want to be doing at the moment is to be doing, let's do more. We need to be concentrating on getting a few of them more out there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Is get a few out there. Once you get a few out there more, then you can start to be more creative and do different stuff as well too. So what do you guys? Where do you how many employees do you guys run right now? Is it just like
it's just the two of us.
Just you two of it, right? Well,
we have some help when we're busy, and we have help doing some things, but generally most things we do on our own.
Right. So you guys are doing all the packaging and shipping and everything.
Yeah, which is why the side of things that's the growth isn't as high as it should be, because we're busy keeping up. And another issue we've got is packaging has been We've got flow wrap, which is plastic, because that's the cheapest you can get. And when you set up and you buy your machine, that's what you've got.
Right.
And then trying to find ecological alternatives. And when you start to look into them, a lot of them have been sort of chemically treated to make them
Right.
food safe. And although you can say they're plastic free, that's a great label to have on your products, but often it's not really that environmental by the time whatever's been done to it. And we're really not greenwashing, we're just a bit more transparent, and we're not happy that it's plastic, but it's what it is for now. But my husband has been researching it for the last few years, and he's found something. Because again, I don't know about over there, we've not got our industrial composting and recycling facilities in the UK are atrocious.
Right.
A lot of the problem is that if somebody puts something into the wrong end of the line, it's going to contaminate whatever that, whether it's plastic or vegware or whatever, it contaminates it. So we think we found something that's home compostable, which is great. Just stick it in your own compost, and there's other ways that it can go. So we found something that we think we're happy with, but we tested our shelf life of our products in it, and it didn't give them as long a shelf life as the plastic did. So now we've eventually found something we're happy with. But my husband thinks we've got our blades on our machine sort of seals that were lines running up that way, and we think that's maybe not airtight. Whereas if we sealed it that way, that's a complete block. So we're maybe going to get different blades for our wrapping machine, and test his money again, but test it and see, because we don't want to think that we found the ideal thing and then bin that idea because we think it's actually not the right material, when actually it could be the material. It might just be our machine blades are not sealing it because it's doing lots of indents that way when it could be that way. So that's the next thing we're working on, because at the moment we've been putting stickers on plastic wrap, and it just looks really homemade and shoddy, and that takes time to be stickering it as well, whereas really we just want run things through the final packaging, and we were expecting to be stickering things for a very short time, and here we are a few years on still stickering things, and it just makes it doesn't do our products justice really. But that's kind of okay, because often things look amazing and you open them up and they taste like crap, whereas we're the other way around, that it's a little bit thrown together, but what's inside it is really tasty. So that's the main thing. The packaging can be worked on because we've got the recipes, whereas other people might have the amount of times we've bought something that looks great and think that's not nice at all is quite often. So at least we're not one of those companies.
Yeah, I mean, that's a normal part of business. You see people changing packaging all the time. I mean, that's one of the things I used to travel with. Do you have the Shark Tank show in UK? Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
They invest in businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dragon's Den.
Yeah. So ours is like Dragon's Den, right? So one of our Shark Tank guys on there, he's one of my friends, and I used to travel with him, and he was on the first 4 seasons of Shark Tank. He was one of the investors in people's businesses, and I would travel with him and help him build some of his brands, and we did a lot of stuff together. And one of the things is, the reason I bring this up is, one of the things when I would sit in meetings with him, and we would have I would sit in hundreds of meetings with him, hundreds, right? And of different companies they'd be investing in and doing stuff with. And one of the major things that came up with a lot of the companies that they invested in was, we've got to change the packaging. Like, that was one of the major things that I seen out of all these new businesses that came in. I finally said to him, like, it's crazy. Like, half the start of that right away that you call right away is like, packaging has to be changed. So, and these are even bigger company, bigger businesses already, that are doing. So it just shows like how, it shows that it's such a, I guess, people are doing it all the time, changing the packaging to make it better.
Yeah. And because we're such a tiny company, we wouldn't want to be, that's what's also held us back from getting our flow wrap printed, is you don't want someone to then come along and say, oh, you need to change the packaging, whereas because you've then bought reels and reels of flow wrap, that you're stuck with that for a long time, or you've got the expensive bin in it, getting more. So they are issues, but it is quite often when people do go on about branding, and we know it's important, but it's not it's not up there as a top priority, because it can be done at any time, really.
Yeah. 100%. So I would expect you guys have quite high repeat customers, I would think, correct?
We do. Yeah, when we were doing our business plan, we looked, I'm trying to think what on Dragon's Den they talk about high repeat custom, and I forget what it is, but ours is at least double or possibly triple. And that's what's so good, because it is a fast move. You could buy a bar of chocolate today and you buy another one tomorrow. It's not like some weird invention that you buy once and unless it breaks 10 years later, no repeat custom. So we do have really high repeat custom, which is fabulous. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So what is your main, what's the best seller out of your guys' line?
We've got a product called a smooch, which is so in a chocolate mold, it's a little square mold, one little square of toffee inside the chocolate, and it's a chewy, it's not too hard, not too liquid, just a nice chewy chew. I don't know if there's any equivalent in Canada. Is the Canadian market similar to the American market? Because the main thing we used to get on Vegan Store, we used to buy things called Goldenberg peanut chews. Do you know of them?
Yeah, I know of them. Yeah.
So it's that kind of, it's a chew, but it doesn't stick to your teeth kind of chew. So we've got a smooth, which is over here. We've got a product called a Rolo, which is similar to that. It's a toffee cup and chocolate, and people love them.
Okay.
And we just did our first event this
We
weekend.
got Rolo in Canada.
Oh, you have Rolos?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like a big chunky vegan Rolo, twice the size of Rolo.
Those would sell well in Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll have to get your address and send you a little package of things. I should have done that before today, actually, so that you would have been taught from experience and haven't tasted it. I
love it. Yeah, that'd be nice. I'll definitely try it and I always show what I eat and try and stuff. And you've got me already, because I'm a toffee, chocolate, anything like that. Like that's my weakness, right? Is that so? Okay. So I'm like the ideal person, right?
Yeah. Hopefully you'll love it. We're doing an event this weekend after not having done anything for the last 2 years. So really the first major event we've done since having our factory up in London, something called Vegan Life Live, and people trying our stuff for the first time. And it's just, again, really nice to see people's reactions for trying it, and people that hadn't heard of us. So hopefully we've got some new fans now. But yeah, it's you would like a smooch, that's called, our vegan Rolo.
That's smooch. I like that. That's a good name, actually, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that comes from our cat. She's very, even since she was a baby, she likes to smell your breath and have her face right yours, and she really likes the smooch. So we called it a smooch.
Right. And how long have you guys been in business now for?
So we started, launched at that Veg Fest in 2016, became a limited company in 2018 when we were looking at getting the factory and shifting up here. But so it's really from being we've been doing it 6 years.
Right. Yeah. So you guys are fairly new business. So so you're just getting your way, right? So it's a very young business.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because I don't know statistically worldwide, but it's what we're taught here is pretty much most businesses fail in the first 2 years. Yeah. It's horrific. But we're kind of lucky, because what we've got is fast moving consumer goods. So we've got a product to sell. So it's instantly, we've bought some ingredients, we've sold that for more money than it took us to make it. And so we've been generating money all along. We've sort of got a little bit of debt from startup loans, which we're paying off, but generally it's a money making operation. And if we had more money, we could buy additional machinery, which would make our life easier. But we sort of find the main 3 bits of kit that would get us going, and paying that off as we go. So we're really lucky to still, especially during a pandemic, and the worry now is that people have got less disposable income. In the UK, we've got major issues with cost of living crisis, where our energy has gone up and fuel has gone up, and people are this stall at the weekend, we didn't
Right.
sell as much as we thought we would. We still made money, but we
Right.
were expecting possibly double the sales based on previous events we'd been at. And it is, when you've got, do you buy a bag of oatmeal or do you buy a bar of chocolate? It's the oatmeal's going to last you breakfast for 2 weeks. You buy, so it is worry that we are a luxury. So it is a concern that people aren't going to have the money to buy, because we've managed to survive so far.
Right.
I would hate for us to struggle based on external factors, really.
Right.
We've maybe not grown as quick as we should, and we don't know everything, but we've not done anything wrong. We've been able to organically grow based on our knowledge. But it would be horrible if we just suddenly nobody's got any money and buying anything. So, oh no. Oh.
It would be interesting, you know, if you guys did a high end one, and that became another extension of your brand. And I'm talking like high end, you know, like $200, $300 or whatever it is, like a high end, because people don't understand this. When markets go down and recessions happen, higher end brands a lot of times actually make more money. And because people that have money still have money, they still have money, right? And so you'll notice that I've had a couple friends of other businesses create higher ends in their businesses as well too, along with their other stuff. And that side just skyrocketed. You know, and it really became a big part of their business. And the reason I bring up for you guys, because it's such a, you know, it's almost one of those things, if you're handcrafting or if you're making more time with your hands and it becomes more personal and stuff like that, you know, I could see that there would 100% be a market that would pay for that extra stuff. And, you know, you only need, you know, 5,000 consumers to make, you know what I mean, some really good money on that. So, I mean, it's just something to maybe consider, you know, moving forward as you're looking at the economy and stuff like that. And it might be something that's an extension that's kind of maybe easy for you guys to do, easy for you to try for 6 months, you know, and not a lot more money, and put some time, a little bit of time into it. If it works, great. You know, if it doesn't, well, you put some time and you took a shot, you know, so might be something we're looking at.
Yeah, we did, when we do some Christmas selections, because we've not done market research for a while on who our audience is, but I don't know how many high-end customers we've got. But when we've done our Christmas selection boxes in 3 sizes, the biggest one sold the best, which was great. And so the following year, I think we eliminated the smaller one and did the bigger one even bigger, but that took it a little price point above what people were prepared to pay. So we realized that now we have to bring it back a little. People aren't prepared to pay that much. I think you can't go a little bit. You got to go, you know, if you're going to do both ones where you're just selling normally like you do, then the other one's got to be high, like high, right? You know what I mean? High, like high wear. I mean, a lot of people in my inner circle, I mean, they pay all their shoe lines are $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, right? So, you know, so there's a big market. So you got to go there. You know what I mean? You can't teeter a little bit here. You know what I mean? It's got to be like, hey, you know, you're this person, you want our product. It's top of the line. It's high end. It's creative, you know, and you're going to pay the money for it. Right.
Like that stuff, right?
Yeah. Find me those people who will make it.
Well, I got a lot in my inner circle, so.
Send them over.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Well, I love your guys' business. I mean, you know, this has been a really great interview, you know, being to just spitball back and forth about your struggles and challenges and where you're trying to go. And this stuff helps a lot of people because they see challenges from other people, because in small business, we're all going through different challenges and different things.
Yeah. And quite often people I could have forgotten about the struggles that we go through, but especially when it's forefront in your mind, you talk about it. But it's the honesty of it. You sometimes go on social media and you see brands and a lot of bull, just a lot of polishing what's going on, and actually they might fail because they've not wanted to admit that they struggle. like if we'd known the kind of struggles that we've been through the last few years, would we have done it in the first place? It's just a learning as we go, and we're kind of we've come into it blind and just kept going with it. It's been an interesting journey, but it depends on, again, if you've got knowledge before you start. So say things like Trump, he'd been bankrupt before, had failed businesses, but then like us, if we were to start this again tomorrow, my goodness, our setting up of the factory would be different. It's really hot today, so we're at home today because there is absolutely no point in us trying to make anything in the factory because it's humid, the recipe. So it's just, okay, if we got a new factory, my goodness, that would be one of the first things we would change. So everything that we've managed to do well enough to get to where we are, if we were to upscale again and move elsewhere, the amount of things that we would get not necessarily right, because we've not got anything wrong, we've just not got things perfect, whereas moving on up we would get things, do things better, differently. And so we're kind of fortunate, and it's that thing that when you've got the problems that you are dealing with at the time, when you actually look back at them a few months after, they weren't so big, but on that day they were a complete disaster for you, and you find that you've learned from it, and you've now got a new problem to think, about.
Totally. And well, and that's just business. And, if we're not having a ton of problems in our business, then I look at it, we're not moving fast enough and we're not pulling the trigger enough.
Right.
Because we should be. There should be a lot of.
Well,
yeah. There should, people don't look, like when they look at our stuff, they see a couple things, they're like, oh, that worked really well for them. But they don't see all the things that we tried that didn't work out really well. Right. So like there's lots of things that we do that I make a decision. I'm like, let's try this. And I'm like, oh, that one didn't work very good.
Well, that's another thing that's been really good for us, which we've maybe not done as much recently, but certainly when we first got the factory and we were making batches and bigger batches, and there was sometimes that we'd maybe boil things up too soft, or the shelf life of something wasn't long enough, or things were underweight because we were because it's handmade, trying to get a consistent weight of some products is really difficult. So we've just put them on our shop, told customers on social media, here's some stuff it's not perfect, it's a bit rubbish, but they've been happy to buy it because they're interested in, one, it's paying, they want to support us, so they're happy to give us some money, support us and pay for the mistakes. And they've bought it. They've bought it to sort of melt on ice cream or do different things with it. It's fine if you use it in a cake or whatever. And they've been happy to buy it, and they like the honesty that, oh, we've had a crap day, we've made something absolutely terrible, who wants to buy it? And then they've been happy to buy it. So that's been quite nice, and that makes them feel, they know it's just the two of us, and it makes them feel more connected to us as well. And it's so lovely to have that support. And we've got that point though that we sort of know customers' names, but it's also, we want to not know customers' names. We want them to be in shops where it might have not even been made by us. It's been made by an external sort of white label producer, contract manufacturer rather, and it's been in a shop and people have bought it that we've not heard of them. Just because it's, if we know all our customers' names, and that's far too small. But you do see the same names come in every time we post on social media. Oh, I want some of that, and it's people come in and buy it, and the good repeat customer. But we need more customers from more product.
Right, it's true, but nothing wrong with that. And done properly, those customers that you know their names, leveraged right in an ethical way, will get you to the level where the other customers, you can't know their names. And done properly. And I give, everybody has my cell phone number. My staff, my customer, everybody. I tell my staff, give all our customers. I have a lot of contacts. Everybody gets my cell number. Everybody. Because I'm consistently, they can have access to me at all times. They know if they're talking to one of our customers, it's like, if you call Shane, something's got to go, something like, something's happened, you didn't get great service, or something you really need to talk to them about. Now, people don't call me very much because of that, but they have access to me. So they
Yeah.
see 100% how much I care,
Yeah.
and that I'm going to get that. And you know, I'm a, you know, the more you know that, you know, some businesses, you know, can't do that. Well, I'll give you a great example. Kevin O'Leary from our Shark Tank, one of the biggest investors around the world, he has 2 cell phones. One cell phone is for family and friends.
Right.
This guy owns 150 companies. Other is for everyone in all his other companies. Everybody.
Right.
Everybody has
Right.
his phone number.
Yeah.
And so he goes, that's why I build so much, because my relationships with my people, they have access to me. And he goes, they know that they can only call this phone number if, you know, something's really gone wrong, or, you know, something like that. And he goes, that phone actually doesn't ring near as much as my family phone and friend's phone, near as much, right?
Yeah.
You know,
And
so
that's access to people, because again, when we're saying that we don't know the industry, but I'm sure if one of our major supermarkets knew what we were doing, they would be interested. And if there's barriers to connect with people, then quite often when people say, we've got a friend locally that organises events, and so if you email someone's assistant and say, can someone come and talk at my event, they say no. But if he bumps into someone in the street and says, can you come to my event, they say yes. And often those people in the middle of the barriers say no, when actually if you get through to the person that you actually want, they are quite likely to say yes, and that they've never heard of all the requests that you've put through trying to reach them. So it is good if this Kevin has got that contact with people. It's great.
it's true. It's true. You know, so when you said, last question, and we'll go, because it's been an hour and we've talked for a long time. So so that hour went fast. I didn't even see. I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's already been just about an hour. When you say handmade, give me an example of what you mean by that.
So the ingredients go into a cooker. So we weigh the ingredients and they go into a cooker. So that's a machine does that. Okay. And then we pour it out onto our table. But then sometimes things, when we watch, we've got programs over here which are inside the factory where you watch things that pretty much from the second it's made, it is on an automated process through, whether it's a biscuit being baked and then run through chocolate and then wrapped in its individual packet to then its box to then ending up on a pallet. That has not touched human hands, that whole process. It's just all these machines are connected to each other and through it goes, and they're churning out millions of product. Whereas ours is, we put it on the table, we've got some blades like a pizza wheel but on a rolling pin, so like a rolling pin for the pizza wheels that cut lots of fingers in one direction, but we've got to cut it the other direction. So we are hand cutting, we are physically taking the toffee onto our chocolate machine, through the chocolate into the fridge, bringing it back out. So it's just that we have nothing is automated, it is all from us doing it. And I mean, we could get huge bank loans and buy an automated system, which would be a mega bucks, but we wouldn't particularly know what machines go with what, which is why we need people that have worked in these places that would know, oh, if you just had one of these, that would make that so much easier. And if that connected to that, then that would be automated. So it's
got it.
A good thing to have. It's all handmade. Especially the smoochies, that is us cutting lots of little squares of toffee and physically in a mold, 21 in each mold, putting it in. So you pay for the time it takes us. You pay for the time it takes us to make it rather than actually the product.
Right.
But the ingredients, they're not cheap ingredients, but sugar and fat are fairly affordable ingredients. But it's the time it takes us to make the product is where the cost goes into what we sell.
Of course, I see that. Do you guys sell just in the UK, or do you sell all over?
Yeah, we sell to individual customers anywhere, but in terms of outlets, it's pretty much the UK. We would, if we had a more grasp on the UK, then obviously we could go further afield. But then it's also the issue with confectionery, especially the chocolatey products, rather than just the toffees, is heat, transport. How damaged would something be by the time it gets to somewhere else? So it would be an issue. But yeah, we'd happily. I mean, it's the kind of product that's got potential for worldwide. There is nothing to say that we couldn't be anywhere.
Right. And where can everybody find you at? Your website, social medias, anything like that?
Yeah, so everything is Jeavons Toffee, which is our website, and Jeavons Toffee on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've not done TikTok yet, but we do have to dance around for a bar of chocolate. So that's our social medias.
Awesome. So everybody, I would go check them out, follow their social media, try their stuff. I'm looking forward to trying the stuff because it's already in my wheelhouse. I love that stuff. So I'm excited, and I'll definitely when I try it, I'll do a video at the same time. I'm unpackaging it, trying it, eating it, and stuff like that. So we're just starting a show where I'm going to be going around and tasting vegan burgers and rating them.
Okay.
And so
Right.
I'm gonna start doing that. So it'll be good to try your guys' stuff. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. You're a wealth of information, and I look forward to helping you guys get some more exposure and get out there. And we'll send over a couple clips, and let's stay in touch. And anything you need, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll send you some goodies.
Awesome. Cool. Awesome. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.